Of my Ruin Theory videos, this is the one that I would say I was most paranoid about making, and that's because I'm really not sure about almost anything in this video, but I do still want to make this video so that I can get your gears turning and so that you can give me your theories, because this one is kind of a combination of a bunch of mini theories that kind of connect to the same type of point. A lot of the things that we saw in the base Security Breach game was lying to us, and Ruin tells us that. If you haven't already, you should definitely check out my first Ruin theory, which was mostly focusing on the Mimic and a couple other things surrounding the Ruin DLC. You should also check out my mini theory from yesterday if you haven't yet. I'm also going to be doing another theory video more so about the future of the games, looking ahead and talking about what could happen in the upcoming games, and I'll also be doing another mini theory about Cassie's dad. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for whenever those videos come out at some point within the next few days, but without further ado, let's talk about Ruin. I think the first thing we should talk about is which Security Breach ending is canon. Many people are latching on to the idea that the Princess Quest ending is the canon ending, and for good reason. We see the Princess Quest 3 arcade machine surrounded by the glitch trap enemies from Princess Quest, and the arcade machine has the Princess Quest golden sword in it. We also find ruined Glamrock Freddy and Fazerblast in a pile of broken staff bots, not to mention he's missing his head. And we see Gregory on a hill with Vanessa, who's been freed from glitch trap. The Mimic doesn't seem to be mimicking Afton anymore because only a specific piece of the Mimic program was the glitch trap virus, and the glitch trap virus was destroyed following Princess Quest, leaving the Mimic to go back to what it was doing in Tales from the Pizzaplex's epilogues. I'd also like to use that to correct what I said in the last video. Helpy is possessed by the Mimic, but as I said last time, it was the Mimic in the form of Glitch Trap. However, it's not. It's just the regular Mimic, and that's because the Glitch Trap is destroyed now. And finally, there's comics of each of the endings except the Princess Quest ending, indicating they're non-canon while Princess Quest is canon. Case closed, right? Not really, because there's a couple other factors that don't really add up that well. We see in the Fredbear cutout ending that Gregory and Vanessa are on the hill, and of course, Helpy is there simply because we're wearing the Vanny mask, so he just shows up. The issue stems from the fact that Freddy is not on the hill with them. Gregory didn't take Freddy with him when he left. There's also the controversial prototype labeling on Freddy's foot, which was not there in the main game. Some people have been saying that Freddy in Security Breach was always a prototype, which is why he broke on stage, and the reason the label isn't there in the base game is because it was painted over, and by the time of Ruin it's just been scratched off. The problem with this is the fact that the Pizzaplex has been open for at least 5 years, so why does Fazbear Entertainment decide now is the time to replace him with a prototype? It's alright, it's what happens, I'll accept it. But the problem is, why would they put him on stage before working out all the bugs? There's also a similar situation that contradicts this. Remember how I just said the paint covering up the word prototype could have just been scratched off? Well, something similar happens in the main game, but it's something that tells us that this Freddy has been performing on stage for a long time. Freddy's bow tie used to be purple and was painted over with black, but after we give him Chica's voice box, the paint on the bow tie is scratched off. This implies that this is the same Freddy that has been performing all along, and his original bow tie is shining through. And that's not even mentioning how dirty the bow tie is when the paint scratches off, and how clean the prototype writing is. Yeah, hey guys, Evan from the future here. Just wanted to jump in and add a couple things that for some reason I didn't think of when I was writing the script or even recording the video. So yeah, like I just said, the paint is really clean, but there's also the fact that this prototype Freddy could have just been the Glamrock Freddy before the Pizzaplex even opened. It could have just been like a really old Freddy, and then somehow got destroyed. I don't know how, but yeah, whatever. So I don't think that it's the same Freddy from Security Breach, but then why is it in the same spot Freddy was in during Princess Quest's ending? Why is he missing his head? And why does he have Monty's claws? Wouldn't all that just be a massive coincidence? Technically not really. Why? Well, for that answer to that question, allow me to pose the question one more time. Which Security Breach ending is canon? None of them. While Princess Quest definitely happened and Vanessa was freed, it didn't happen the same way that we see in Security Breach. Something similar to the Princess Quest ending happened, but it's not the same ending. Freddy wasn't disassembled. I feel like another reason why this is probably true comes from the fact that some of the Security Breach endings have certain things that simply do not make any sense, specifically the Afton ending and the Princess Quest ending. See, before we go down into the cave with FNaF 6 in Security Breach, Freddy tells us that the elevator can only survive one trip, meaning it can go down but can't go back up. This also further confirms that the Afton ending isn't canon, considering the elevator is still up here. The problem stems from the fact that despite them not having any way to get back up, the ending shows that they did make it back up. That is a major problem. Another problem is in the Princess Quest ending itself, and the problem stems from Gregory taking Freddy with him. See, in the Princess Quest ending, Gregory puts Freddy's completely intact head into a bag and takes him with him. However, during the Disassemble Vanny ending, we see that the staff bots destroy Freddy in his entirety, including his head, meaning that his head should not be intact in the Princess Quest ending because he would have the same injuries in both. So Gregory taking Freddy with him doesn't make any sense, and that seems to imply that even the Princess Quest ending, at least as we know it, did not happen. Princess Quest was completed, Vanessa was freed from Glitchtrap's control, but Freddy most likely was not there when it happened. The only problem with this is how a prototype Freddy ended up like this, but it's possible that it was just a prototype that was freed from wherever he was and activated after the Pizzaplex fell into ruin, and something happened that resulted in it ending up like this. But the problem is, where is the real Freddy if this isn't him? It's just so weird that he would be a different one, but I feel like a lot of evidence suggests that he is. This is the reason that I'm not really sure about this theory. I honestly don't think either theory entirely makes sense, so I'll allow you guys to make a decision for yourselves because I don't have an entirely sensible answer. A possible explanation for the prototype thing is something I mentioned in my recent theory discussion video, or the first one specifically, because Glamrock Freddy in a lot of ways is connected to Golden Freddy and Fredbear. But of course, Fredbear is always paired up along with Spring Bonnie, and Bonnie Bull shows Freddy sending Bonnie a message saying you and me forever and ever, tying Glamrock Freddy and Glamrock Bonnie together. There's an AR plushie of a golden version of Bonnie similar to Spring Bonnie, and the description for this plushie is a prototype. So something connected to Spring Bonnie and something connected to Fredbear are both referred to as prototypes. Maybe it's supposed to be more of a meta clue rather than actually telling us that Freddy is literally a prototype, in which case maybe it is the real Freddy. Again, I don't have a fully sensical explanation for everything, I just wanted to provide you all with all of the details so you can come to an informed decision yourself. Anyway, that's the end of the first mini theory, now we can move on to the next. The next thing I want to bring up is something that's pretty short to talk about, but I thought I should bring it up. Some people have been suggesting that maybe because of the comic pages and the other endings being made by Gregory, that Burntrap might not exist, and it might only be the Mimic. However, the Blob is in that 8th comic page, and we know the Blob is real because he actually appears in this DLC as an Easter egg at the beginning. Plus, just because the Burntrap ending isn't the canon one, doesn't mean he doesn't exist, because the duffel bags in Security Breach hint at his existence through the power being drained to under the Pizzaplex due to the recharge station Burntrap was in. The comic page Gregory made is of an ending where we see Burntrap step out of a recharge station that we already know was draining power, meaning it was definitely Burntrap and not just the Mimic that was inside that recharge station. Burntrap wasn't made right before we went down there, he was created months, maybe years prior, so the argument that the Mimic was going to be Burntrap but just didn't become him yet, especially because of the Princess Quest ending happening and Vandy not completing him yet, simply doesn't work. So it's safe to say that Burntrap does exist, and he may have been engulfed into the Blob already, which is interesting because the Blob actually has purple eyes in the comic page just like Burntrap, and when we see the Blob in Ruin, his eyes don't glow red. While it's possible it was just an oversight because no one would see his eyes since he's there for a split second and also his head is turned in the opposite direction of us, it's interesting to me that in both areas that we see the Blob in Ruin, his eyes are different. Either way, we'll talk more about that in another theory, but one other small thing I wanted to mention about the Mimic is that during the ending when he's fighting Roxy, he seems to be mimicking Roxy's voice line of, "Give up, you can't win." So when we hear Roxy say Cassie's name at the end of Ruin, it's possible that it was actually the Mimic, especially since he was right next to the elevator and Roxy was far away from it. One more thing I want to mention in this part is something I mentioned at the end of my last video, which is when Security Breach takes place. I came to the conclusion that it had to open in 2024, but that the Fast Life magazine started a long time after the Pizzaplex opened, and the actual game takes place in 2035. However, what I didn't realize when I made that video is that Gregory is 12 in GGY, which is only 2 years after the Pizzaplex opens. That would mean that Gregory would be 21 in Security Breach, which I think we can all agree is absolutely not the case. Technically, my theory could work in this case, with Gregory being robots like Charlie in the books, and the one we play as is a disposed one, while the one that was Patient 46 moves on to other robots, but that's understandably a really controversial theory, and most people think it's horseshit, which I understand. It would definitely fix this problem, but I also don't really think Vanessa is 33 in Security Breach rather than the 26 that she would be if Security Breach is in 2029. So I'm just gonna revert back to my previous belief that Security Breach is in 2029. Cassie having been in the daycare is weird, but I don't know, maybe for some reason she still went there when she was like 7. Next one I want to talk about is something that I've mentioned in a few of my recent videos, such as my under construction one. In that video, I talked about the ongoing trend of fake or warped realities in the stories Under Construction, Help Wanted, Somnophobia, Drowning, Tiger Rock, and vaguely Animatronic Apocalypse and Pressure. I suggested that because the body swapping trend from Fazbear Frights connected to Glitchtrap, who is relevant in the book series that followed Fazbear Frights, it's possible that the trend in Tales from the Pizzaplex would be relevant in whatever the next book series ends up being based on. Or better yet, maybe the reason we've seen nothing of the 9th Tales from the Pizzaplex book or any future books, if they're even gonna happen, is because they were going to be based on Ruin, and they haven't been shown yet because of spoilers. That might not happen, but it seems that I was on the right track because Ruin actually seems to be what the warped or fake reality trend was building up to. The AR mask in Ruin is one of the strangest parts of Ruin that everyone is confused about because it seems to just defy the laws of physics. On one hand, it literally makes objects disappear and allows you to walk through them even though they seem to be real physical objects. When we put on the mask, Ruin Freddy disappears, Music Men appear out of nowhere, and barriers show up. Roxy can see us when we wear the mask because her eyes are just there again somehow, and the way that all of this works is just really weird. The weird thing about it is that there's blurry glitches covering the objects that you walk through, and interestingly enough, in the 4th closet, things with illusion discs on cameras are blurry, almost as if Cassie's eyes are camera... No, I will not believe Cassie is a robot. At least not now. But the glitchy blur is interesting. So what exactly is happening here? My first thought was that it was actually the work of illusion discs, since they trick your brain into seeing things that aren't actually there, so it's possible that they can also trick your brain into thinking things are there, with the Vanny mask revealing illusions and also creating its own. The problem is that the mask creates bridges that we can fall through without the mask. It doesn't make sense. We also don't hear a constant ringing, so the mask can't be using illusion discs. These things are literally phasing in and out of existence when we put on the mask. Reality and the AR world are warping and morphing together with each other, and it's just really strange. Is it possible that the entire Pizzaplex is actually entirely AR? The AR in Ruin is just really strange, and it just feels like the whole Pizzaplex is fake, with fake objects everywhere, kind of like the house in Help Wanted being empty, and illusion discs are making it real. Or is Ruin just a simulation? The AR mode throws so many wrenches, Faz wrenches to be specific, into things, and I don't understand exactly how it works. But I'm confident that the fake and warped reality trend is at play here. It's like I said at the beginning of the video, while this is a theory video, it's a bunch of mini theories for the simple reason that these are the parts of Ruin that I don't have solid answers for. I just find it really interesting that there's multiple parts of Ruin when Cassie gets trapped in the AR mask, such as this area, which is technically an appearance of the atrium in Ruin, but we don't see it as the atrium, which is kind of sad, and that's similar to Tiger Rock, Under Construction, and Drowning, in all of which the characters can't escape the VR or AR headsets, and the messy conglomeration of colors at the end of Tiger Rock could connect to the AR atrium in Ruin. Who knows? There's definitely a connection between them, but I don't know exactly how they correlate. Let me know your ideas in the comments, because at this point, I'm just spitballing. Maybe Ruin actually is a simulation, at least in the main part of the Pizzaplex, before we make it underneath, because in Roxy's beauty salon, there's a sign that is supposed to say hair and makeup, but in the Ruined Pizzaplex, it says, "Ha, wake up," which, considering this section of the game is one of the most lore-heavy, it feels like it has to mean something, and I just don't know if it's trying to say we're not living in reality right now, or if it really doesn't mean anything, which I kind of doubt. As I said, I really want to see your thoughts in the comments because it's just really confusing. The next mini-theory isn't as connected to the idea of Security Breach lying to us, but it's also connected to the AR Vanny. Ruin has numerous connections to both FNaF World and Princess Quest. One of these similarities is the glitched objects from FNaF World, which are very similar to how the AR Vanny mask allows us to get through objects, which, when we're not wearing the mask, look glitched. And in both instances, these glitched objects are required in order to progress the game as well as get secrets. As we all know, the Mimic shows up in Ruin, and FNaF World has both the Mimic Ball and Mendo, which, given Yendo meaning yellow endo in sister location, Mendo could mean Mimic Endo. FNaF World also has a Virtua Freddy, which could also connect to the AR. In FNaF World's Pinwheel Funhouse, there's enemies such as Red Bear, White Rabbit, and Tangle. All of these enemies are represented by something in Ruin. The files of Ruin actually refer to the blob as Tangle. Vanny is a White Rabbit, and her mask appears in this DLC, as well as Princess Quest, which frees Vanny, and also has a scene between the princess and Old Man Consequences, very similar to the one we see in Ultimate Custom Night and FNaF World, and in those games, our player character is a Red Bear. Speaking of Princess Quest, the character we play as in Ruin is of course Cassie, and while as I said earlier I don't think she's a robot, it is a very similar name to Cassidy, who is the player character in Princess Quest. On top of that, the end of Princess Quest 1 shows Cassidy walking straight into Glitchtrap's trap, and on Glitchtrap's door is a baobab tree, which of course tells us that Glitchtrap is the Mimic, meaning that Cassidy walks right into the Mimic's trap, just like how in Ruin Cassie walks right into the Mimic's trap. It seems like there's supposed to be a connection between Ruin, Princess Quest, and FNaF World, but true to the theme of the video being me really uncertain about everything, what these connections actually mean is unknown to me. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on everything I talked about in this video. Let me know what you think about the stuff I brought up in this video. How do you think the AR works? Do you think Glamrock Freddy in Ruin is the same one from Security Breach? What do you think all these connections to Ruin are trying to tell us? Do you think Ruin is a simulation, or do you think the AR works some other way? Or do you think physics in FNaF just absolutely make no sense anymore? Let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and stay tuned for my upcoming Ruin content, because don't worry, I've still got plenty more to talk about. But that's all for this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye guys!